Record. Awesome. Okie dokie. Okay, well, welcome to today's masterclass, How to Stay in the Field in Vet Med Without Losing Yourself. I created this training and it exists because of my own self-discovery journey. And I looked at the responses that you guys shared when you registered. So I also included, to make sure that I touch base on those things as well. I took time to read what you wrote, and it is so much I noticed came back to one core question. What is it actually going to take for me to enjoy this career again? Without the answer being that I have to leave. And if you're someone that has asked yourself that, I guarantee you're in the right place right now. Today, we're going to talk about why burnout has become normalized in this field, how you might be contributing to your own exhaustion without even realizing it, and most importantly, how staying doesn't mean you have to lose yourself or, you know, continue to feel like you're lost. So, who am I? And why am I the one talking about this today? So, I'm Caitlin Warford. I am was started as a CVT. Now in Colorado, we are recognized and have title protection. I'm an RVT. And I'm also have gotten my life coach certification. I've been now in veterinary medicine for 10 years. I started in a small town in Minnesota in rural GP and did that for a few years before I moved into urgent care. I moved to Denver, Colorado, and started in urgent care, dabbled a little bit in that. And then the last 4 years now, I've been in emergency only with veg. So for most of my career, what I recognize is that I lived in hustle culture, hustle culture. I overgave, expended myself, I people pleased, and then my job just became my entire identity. And I, like at the end of the day, I loved what I did, but outside of work, I noticed I was like a zombie. I didn't have energy for anything and just kind of numbed myself. I didn't have motivation and just no life outside of the career I was in. In about 2022 is where I hit a point of where I was really sick of feeling just like I was on autopilot, like I was going each day with no purpose, or like besides my career, but like there was nothing outside of that. Like that was the only thing I could tie myself to. I told myself there has to be another way. I shouldn't be living my life just questioning why I'm here, right? Why, like, no will to live anymore, just besides going to work. And that wasn't even enough. That passion that I had for helping animals wasn't even enough to want me to stay here anymore. And so I got to the point where I hit rock bottom and said, there has to be another way. So instead of blaming the field, the leadership management, or the world, because I did, I started to look inside myself. And that's when I realized something very, very important, that leaving vet med isn't the only option. That realization is what let me down my own healing and growth journey, and why I'm now dedicated to helping other vet med professionals as a life coach. I was once in your shoes, and I've now experienced this other side where the weight that's on your shoulders lifts, your energy comes back, and you start to feel like yourself again. And this is what something I want for every single one of you, every single vet professional that, has been feeling like this and has gotten to the point where they lost hope. And I want to reignite that hope for you today. And this picture of me here is when I was still in tech school. When I was in tech school, I worked for a Humane Society. And this pity, she was one of my first mamas that I worked with. She had 12 babies. Oh my goodness, they were they were crazy, but it was a good time. And then this was me in urgent care here in Denver when I first moved here. So, why are you here today? The overwhelming consensus from your guys' responses was that you still love the field, but you're exhausted. Most of us, I know for me and a lot of, everyone I talk to, we put our heart and soul into entering a career that most of us have dreamed about since we were kids. And now we're at a point where you've poured so much of yourself into it, and it feels like nothing has been poured back into you. You're tired of toxic environments, tired of lack of support, tired of feeling like you're on your own. And you're questioning if leaving the field is the only solution, which I don't blame you. I was there at one point too. But you being here today tells me something important, that you still have that love and passion for this field. So I'm sure many of you at this point, like at this point in your career, and I feel like this quote especially is usually from someone outside of vet med because they don't understand why we stay in it. But if it's just bad, why don't you just leave? If it's that bad, why are you still there? But this is the career you dreamed of. You love helping animals. You didn't just choose this because it was the only thing the last thing you could think of. You thought of it and chose it because it's what fueled you. It's what gave you a sense of purpose. Felt like you were changing and making an impact on not only the animals, but they're humans too. And comments like this, like quietly send the message that maybe this is just how vet med is supposed to be. The comment as well of like when you explain, or maybe you shared when you were first thinking of going into vet med, and I know I have heard this or hear it from people that are in the field now saying to new people that are coming in or interning or are in school that you're gonna be burnt out. Like you better start protecting yourself now because you're gonna get burnt out. You're not gonna be supported. Like that discouraging thing that we tell new people because of, the experience we have. And of course, like our anger and everything that we experience is warranted. Like it's unfair, the things that we've been through. But then it discourages hope. It discourages, new people from their vision, that vision we once felt at the beginning of starting of the, I'm excited to do this. This is new. It's my passion. I want to learn everything. It discourages that. And when we hear that ourselves, it makes us question like ourselves. Like, it makes us feel wrong to want change, not just for us, but for the field when people tell us this is what it's supposed to be. And like I mentioned, like how many of you did hear don't do it when you said you wanted to go to vet med? Like burnout has become the expectation. And I'm here to tell you today that it doesn't have to be that. So, what does losing yourself actually look like? It can look like constant low energy, a lack of motivation, numbing instead of being present. For me, um, I will go back to what, and then you guys can share, your experience with this too. But one thing that I've recognized in this is that I never really have known myself. I never did, really, until even when joining the field. I realized that a lot of feeling lost was something I felt before joining the field. And then because I felt that then, it's like the field just took advantage of me and I continued to feel that. But these are signs that I have experienced throughout my life. It just compounded when I worked in a career that, you know, over exact or like over like took away from me. And so, like I said, low energy, that's what I noticed. I didn't want to get out of bed. I dreaded going to work. Um, I numbed instead of actually tried to be present and avoided my thoughts, my emotions. I pulled away from the people and the things I love to do, and I lost joy in learning new skills, became very irritable, uh, would snap from the littlest things because I was just so overwhelmed that I didn't have the capacity to be patient anymore. Felt like every little thing that was brought to me was someone just trying to tell me that I'm doing a horrible job and that I suck at what I'm doing. Came as an insult instead of, someone just trying to talk to me. So I became irritable and impatient. Like I mentioned, emotionally numb, like nothing mattered anymore. And if this is you or something you're experiencing, it's not because you stopped caring. It's because you've given so much of yourself, there's nothing left. So, most of us enter this field when we don't have many other responsibilities. At least for me, I was fresh out of, high school and went into college right away, and I got my degree by the time I was 21. And so, very new adult. So most of the time, for most of us, it's an early thing in our career. Yes, some of us join later in life, but a lot of us, we start very young and we have the time, have the time to put our all into it. And then it comes to the point of where most of us make vet med our identity, where it's all or nothing and it's who we are and not a part of us, not just a part of us. And at some point, something shifts. For me, becoming a parent was a huge wake-up call. I realized just how much of myself I had given to my career and how guilty I was made to feel when my priorities changed. And the field teaches us that if we don't sacrifice everything, we're not good employees. We're, not being there for our patients. We're not being there, not being a good teammate to our coworkers. But you don't need a major life event like mine of becoming a parent to realize your priorities have changed. Simply becoming self-aware that you've been losing yourself or that you recognize you want more for yourself is enough. Doesn't make you lazy and it doesn't make you less committed. And it certainly doesn't make you a bad employee. And I want you to guys just drop a me in the chat if this is resonating, if you feel like you kind of are in this place of, feeling like putting yourself first means that it makes you, less than, or it makes you feel like you're, not, or maybe you don't believe you're worthy enough to put yourself first. Like, kind of, if any of this is resonating from what I've chatted so far, please comment to me in the chat. And I want you to know you're not alone. So, the weight we carry in this field is so big, enormous. We carry patient loss, emotional cases, moral distress, and on top of that, we're met with lack of recognition and compensation. We're um, have long hours where we work overtime. I hear you guys. I hear you. Long hours, the physical strain we do, like we have a physically demanding job, not just mentally, but physically as well. And then we feel like we're getting micromanaged and we have corporate pressure of telling us how we should do things when they don't know what it's like being on the floor and what we go through. And it's people that, yeah, aren't usually in vet med and telling us that, you need to work through your lunch. I literally, yeah, was it yesterday? I was on a call. Yes, I was doing a podcast yesterday, and I had someone say that even just recently, a corporate company, they didn't say who, um, was telling the staff that they think for them to get the best, to make things the most efficient, that they should work through their lunch breaks. I mean, it's appalling to me that that's still something that's being recommended. But like, obviously, like you're having management and leadership saying you should work through your lunch and you shouldn't prioritize yourself and telling you that, kind of setting that standard of like, if you do, then you're not a good employee. We deal with difficult clients with no management support. They don't stick up for us when we get clients that are angry with us or call us names or tell us we're in it for just the money. And then we, there's financial limitations we have to deal with too, not only just from, excuse me, clients and owners that it's hard to um, deal with, when they can't afford services. Like it's hard because we see that this patient needs something, but then they also can't afford things. And so that's hard on us too. And that we want to help, but it's limited because we can't give away free services. But then I could go on a tangent forever on that aspect of like, yes, there's many different ways that can go, but like it affects our standard of care. And when we can't give that gold standard or do what we need to, like that weighs on us as well. So there's so many things that contribute. And I'm sorry to hear that the corporate has been cutting your hours with increasing appointments that you need to see. It's insane, like why they won't listen to their employees. And I will say, like, I don't want to make this a veg thing, like, but that's one thing that with my story too, veg has been such an inspiration for is because they actually, like, overall, I've met the CEO many times, such a kind human, and they truly care and want our feedback and want to make sure that they give us the best, work-life balance and quality of, being in a hospital and feeling supported. And they have inspired me to that. If this corporate like company can do it, then there shouldn't be any reason any other corporates can do it. And it's frustrating to me that corporate still does this stuff, or just hospitals in general. And I love that, Ember. I completely agree. Like I will say, like I could have included that in my about me, but it's literally Veg has been like one of the places that has been the most inspiration, like I mentioned, because their policies in the aspect of like they want you to be your true authentic self. And it was the first time I ever felt safe to truly be me. And so then that's where I also had the encouragement of looking inside myself because if I felt emotionally safe in me, then I felt comfortable in learning new things. I felt more like I was able to, do things outside of work. Like they encouraged a work-life balance and just in general mental health support as well. And so like it was the inspiration. And they encourage you to help others on a big scale too. And so that gave me a vision of like, wow, I can do things on a bigger scale. I can do more than just, not that, or like I can make a huge impact even working in a hospital. Like I actually have clients recognizing me for once. So, so much weight, so much weight on our shoulders. And it builds, especially when we have nowhere else to put it. So there's a pattern that many of us fall into, and it starts by we overgive. And one thing that with us as vet professionals and with me, when I started, like I joined this field because animals were my first source of ever feeling truly accepted. They were a source for me to, you know, they didn't judge me for being myself. And so I wanted to give back to the voiceless of them who have showed me that care and that love that I've always wanted and I've never found from an actual human. And so I joined for that reason. And I know that we all have joined for, our own special reasons, but I find that a lot of people do for that reason as well. And so we're very empathetic people that just want to be seen and heard because most of us never have been seen or heard, especially for me growing up, definitely have not. And and I can go into a whole tangent of how all of this I feel for most people has started before vet med. That we, how our behaviors are, how we are told, things are normal or what to expect in life is because of what we experienced as kids. Not only from, our parents or the adults around us, but school. School alone put a lot of pressure and where we had to over give. We had to, fall into this one set of behaviors to make us a good kid. And I mean, mine was both in family and in school, where, kind of all in bullying too, really just shapes who you are and how you see yourself. And when you going into adult life of like, you don't see, like, you don't feel worthy, you don't feel like you can be yourself, you don't feel safe inside your own skin, then you go into a field like vet med and it runs all over you. Freaking takes advantage of every single one of those fears and those behaviors that you formed beforehand. And so we start by overgiving. We hope that our effort we give will be matched. Um, when it's not, that turns into exhaustion. Then we build resentment, anger, that it's not fair that we give our all and we deserve to get the same in return, and then it's not given. And so we resent not only, maybe the people we work with or leadership, but also the field in general of like, if you weren't like this, then I would be feeling different. I would actually be enjoying this, or, and then we just go into this guilt of, well, like either the guilt of, well, now I've been in this field for 10, 12 years and I'm getting to the point where starting over seems impossible, and feel guilty, like you feel trapped in that guilt of like, well, now I have to stay, or I just have to endure it because this is what the field is. Expect nothing else. Like, this is what it is, and just come to fully accept that of like, there's no other option. This is what it is. I have to either suck it up or I have to leave what I love doing. And sometimes we tell ourselves that, like I just said, like maybe this is just how it is. Maybe I'm the problem. And we say yes when we want to say no. We fear that being seen as a difficult, as um, that we're the problem. If we, make sure that we're heard or try to fight for ourselves. And when we stay, and we're such loyal people that we stay loyal to systems that treat us as replaceable. It's like, oh, and I know I've said this too, but it's like a toxic freaking relationship where you're with a partner who, makes you feel like you're not worthy of anything. And I want to point out that this isn't a personal flaw, it's just conditioning. They conditioned us into this. So boundaries, they are the missing skill that I feel like most of us are never taught. And I know there's so much things of like, well, if you just had boundaries then you'd be fine. Well, there's a lot that goes into it. Like, it's not just if you have these set boundaries and you start trying to implement them, then everything's fixed. That's not the case, but they are necessary in getting there, but you just have to do it in conjunction of prioritizing yourself, which we'll get into as well. But growing up, my boundaries were crossed constantly. One thing as kids, like one of the things that we try to learn to do, and I, as being a parent myself, I see it in real time of one, because, we're surrounded by those we love and we expect them to accept us for who we are. We test like what we can get away with. We test, like, we try to share our emotions and trust that they will see us if we share our emotions for who we truly are, and set the boundary of like, well, I don't want a hug right now, or, just like little boundaries of like, I don't want that. I don't feel comfortable. Like, just expressing you don't feel comfortable about something. And no one cared because I was a kid. That means that they could just do what they wanted. And so with that, I learned to distrust my feelings and feel shame when I learned to try to speak up for myself. I learned that, maybe if they're telling me that I'm overreacting, maybe I am, because I have all these people telling me and I'm the only one that feels differently. So maybe I'm the problem. Maybe, I'm not worth, all of this. And it's so sad to think about that this starts at such a young age. And um, of course, I go into parenting now with making sure that that is not going to happen to my son, and that he learns to be fully feel so, like, so confident in himself. But yeah, I learned very young that speaking up wasn't going to get me anything. It's just going to make me feel worse about myself. But and so with entering the field, I had no idea what healthy boundaries were. I had no idea what to set for boundaries or what to expect in that aspect. And so boundaries, they protect your ability to care. They show, so examples on how is leaving on time, saying no to extra shifts if you don't feel like it, if you don't feel the energy or feel, you know, like you have the capacity for it, actually asking for help when you need it, not carrying the work home with you, and being respected when you're teaching or advocating. Boundaries, yes, like the other thing that's hard when we're scared to stick up for ourselves and taught not to do it because it creates conflict. They're not about conflict. They're uncomfortable because we're putting ourselves first for the first time, and that's something new for us. And sometimes if we feel like we're not worthy of putting ourselves first, then, doing something like a boundary feels wrong, feels like it's selfish. And so it's not about conflict, they're about sustainability. So, why self care? You feel like, I'm sure you've been told many times, well, just take a vacation. But how many of you have come back from time off still exhausted? I want to hear in the comments. How many of you have gone on, had to take a day off, a few days off, even if it's a staycation, and you come back or you get to the last day and you're like dreading going back? You're like, mm-mm, I don't wanna. Yeah. And I truly believe like it's because we're never taught how to truly rest. Real rest means sitting with your emotions, processing them, offering yourself compassion and emotional safety. One thing that, because that's what rest looked like to me and what I thought rest was that I'm just gonna go take a bubble bath. I'm gonna go, you know, maybe it's do something that I do enjoy, but I'm doing things to numb. I'm doing things to distract. I'm not actually doing something and then processing or reflecting inside me of why I feel the way I do. And then that means that I'm still going to feel disconnected because I'm just ignoring everything. And it's why then you go to the end of your days off or you wonder why, oh, I did rest. Why don't I feel refreshed? Because we were never one, like we were taught that's the way it was supposed to be done and never really told that it's more than that. It's not just taking a day off. And sometimes too, it's hard when people don't understand that either. Like, yes, you can realize it's more than that, but it's hard when people tell you just take a day off. Like, it shows that they're not seeing you, shows that they're not hearing you or realizing there's a bigger issue. And so that can hurt in itself as well. But one thing I truly believe is if you don't feel safe within yourself, your mind will never fully rest. And self-care without boundaries just doesn't work. And rest without guilt is the real issue. And this isn't a failure, like it's just a lack of models in, being taught how to do things the right way. And so where change actually starts and what I learned on my journey is that if I wanted to be better, I couldn't wait for someone else to give it to me. So I went to therapy. I hired a life coach myself. And I started to actually, for once, do deep self-reflection on myself. I started to face that shame, started to face that guilt, the fear, and limiting beliefs I had about myself. And like I mentioned previously, many of those patterns came from childhood. And let me tell you, it wasn't easy. I went from it wasn't just like all of a sudden too, like that I was like, yeah, let's start working through these things. Like I went through the process of, you know, in denial and then got to the point of anger where I blamed everyone and everything for the reason I didn't believe in myself, the reason I didn't feel worthy. When, yes, like if they would have treated me differently, if I would have been raised differently to be sure of myself, to trust my emotions, yes, I would be a different adult. Yes, I'd be able to handle things in a healthier way. But at the end of the day, who's the one in control of how you go forward? You. And I realized that within myself that if I keep this anger, if I keep feeling this and blaming others, that I'm going to keep feeling this way, that I'm not going to change. And yeah, I'm not going to live the life that I want for myself. I'm just going to be miserable. And I will never forget going through this journey. Like it took, like, it's a back and forth journey, but it's so worth it. And I will never forget. And I tell this to everyone I talk to that that first day, I started doing things for myself again. I left a relationship that was doing the same thing Vet Med was doing for me, toxic relationship. I saw that toxicity in every aspect of my life, I swear. But I left that relationship, 12-year long relationship. Started doing things for myself again. I started digging into why I had these behaviors, why I had these fears, why I was triggered, why my triggers happen and where they come from, and just starting to truly understand me and showing myself that compassion. And there was one day I was looking in the mirror and I think I was just singing a song. And I like truly smiled in the mirror and felt like the weight go away. Like I truly for once felt safe within myself and felt just safe to be me for once in my life and that I actually truly felt like myself. And that weight that literally felt like a 50-pound weight just was gone. It it was insane. A feeling I've never experienced and I want that for everyone. Um and like I said, I held anger because, I expected, others to respect me in the way I respected them. But if we don't respect ourselves, how do we expect others to? Yes, staffing is unfair. It's one, I can also say because of how everything is and people not getting the support they need and showing how to go through the field without this burnout that we leave because we think that's the answer. So, yes, we're understaffed because we can't hold people in the field, but also because hospitals claim they can't hire more people, which we all know is bullshit. But um, pay is unfair, schedules are unfair. But at the end of the day, who has to demand better for us? It's us. And that's where the change starts. So, what could it staying look like if you started putting yourself first? It could look like enjoying work again, actually wanting to get out of bed every day, seeing an encouragement or like a want to do things for yourself again, maybe doing something for yourself that you haven't done in a while. And I want you guys to drop in the comments maybe what is something that you used to love doing that you haven't done because you don't have the energy to anymore. Like, I want to hear some of those because those are things you could get back and you could do again. Um, it would look like vet med being a part of you, but not defining you, not being your whole life. Um, it would look like enjoying learning, wanting to learn new skills again, not being afraid of making mistakes, um, and wanting to teach skills, grow as a person, grow as a technician, a doctor, assistant, receptionist, whatever that looks like. More confidence in yourself, better pay, just advocating for yourself for better pay and better schedules, um, and new opportunities as well. For me, what got me to kind of start thinking in this aspect was if I could do anything, what would I want? In clinical setting, I went from 10, this, mind you, this is over 10 years. I started at $12 an hour and now I'm up to 32 because of, even though like, yes, I was still fighting through the confidence within myself and the self-worth, like I was still able to find opportunities to increase my wages, but now I'm finding even more ways to increase that and to demand more for myself, to ask for more what I feel like I'm worth. And I start seeking those opportunities and not letting fear hold me back from the comfortableness of where I'm at now, of like, well, I'm making 16, $20 an hour and I'm comfortable here, and leaving to get this higher pay means I have to put myself out there. I have to learn skills that I've never done, or I have to potentially, the fear of, is this leadership team going to be good? Are they going to treat me like crap? Or is this team going to be toxic? Like, I was so determined to get myself that pay I wanted, to go where I wanted to do, that I'm like, I'm not letting it hold me back from like the fears of those things, hold me back from getting it. And I also want to point out that clinical setting isn't the only way to work in vet med. Sometimes that's just not what we're meant for. And I truly believe like working with animals in any aspect, like if animals are your passion, like there can be so many different ways that passion looks for you. It doesn't just have to be in a clinical setting. And for me, obviously, like, even though now I'm life coaching, it's not that animals aren't my passion anymore. My passion is towards, that aspect of the professionals who've never felt supported, because I've been there. Not only in the aspect of as a kid, never feeling seen or heard or felt I could be who I am, truly, but now I want to create a safe space for those who one, love animals so much and are just truly good people, amazing people. Like I've met such amazing people working in vet med the last 10 years, and it's a community that I want to see flourish, and I want us to get to the point of where we're all together in this and we're not, there's so much hate right now, and we're all tagging, fighting against each other because we're all mad. We're all angry that we haven't been seen or heard and feel like everyone's out to get us, which is like, it makes sense. There's no judgment in that. And I was the person during, um, when I, like, since 2022, like right before then, of during COVID, I was that hateful person. I was that person that didn't want to do anything, didn't was irritable towards people. I I can say I became not a nice person. And I don't judge anyone for if you are at that point where you feel like that kindness that you had in you has disappeared, because when you have sacrificed so much for yourself, it's bound to happen. But you're the one that's in control of where you go from here, and your past doesn't define you. If I let my past define me, then I would stay where I was. I wouldn't look for elsewhere. I would let the shame and guilt eat me. But with staying, um, what staying in this field in a healthier way also can also look like is just your clarity increases, the pressure decreases, and you just start to feel human again. And I know a lot of this, like we have a lot of external pressure coming at us, but I will die in the hill that it all starts internally within us. So you may not find the support you need to inside your hospital. That's one of the biggest things that we notice within the field, is that there's no mental health support. There's no support in general of like the caseload, the emotional side of the cases. Like we're just expected to go from like a CPR to a new puppy appointment, you know, stuff like that. And it's not your fault that you can't find that support inside the hospital. And it makes sense that you're angry that they're not giving you that support. But remember, you decide what you deserve. So sometimes support has to come outside the system. I couldn't have done my journey without external support. Like I mentioned before, I sought out therapy for the first time in 27 years. I I hired a life coach myself. And not only that, like there's podcasts that I listen to that help me a ton. One I'll recommend is Rob Dial, the mindset mentor. 100% was one of the biggest things that helped me in my healing journey. Um, Amazing human and did very good at learning, like help reflecting on myself and really learn about myself. So he's a resource 100% you should use. Um, and not only that, but my support system. So I have a few close friends, very, very close friends. And then, of course, like you get like with veg too, one thing I've learned is that the the coworkers I have at this specific hospital, we have a bond that I've never experienced where we all are just maybe it's because we feel safe enough to be ourselves now and all of that, I'm not sure, but like and that we have the safety of like it's okay to not be okay and you're not going to get judged for it, but like this the support that I've received from the team and it shows that having that support in a hospital is very helpful. And you should seek that out for yourself if you don't have it. And sometimes it's just not possible. Sometimes we're stuck with what we have and we don't have other options. But that's where external support becomes very important. But support in general, I had a few dedicated people that were close to me that and if it's Facebook groups too, but a community that when I didn't feel like I was capable or that I started to doubt myself again, that they're the ones that reminded me, no, like this is who you are, you freaking got this, you're a badass. Like yes, it's okay to not be okay, but like they reminded me of who I am, like who I am at my core. And if without them and without that that encouraging support, I would have wanted to give up. I would have fell back into that negative headspace of like, this is too difficult because life keeps throwing things at you to challenge you to see if you're gonna keep going. If you're gonna let your dream like stop going for what you want and just give up. And I know I did that for most of my life, but I got to the point where, I can't do this alone. And that's something that we're taught in vet med as well, is that we shouldn't be sharing our emotions, that we shouldn't, you know, all of that aspect. And so we hide within ourselves. And the loneliness aspect is why there's so many of us that think maybe we're better off, is because even though we all go through the same thing, we don't, if we don't voice it, we don't realize that others are going through it as well. And sometimes just having that one person of like, I get it. I so get it, relieves like it from feeling like so heavy and that you just have someone to talk to about it. And loneliness is one of the biggest, like I've said so many times to many people, loneliness is one of the hardest feelings I've ever experienced. And it really, really warps your mind into thinking you're better off without being here and that no one will miss you. And I just want you to know, like, even though I'm a stranger, like, you matter. I care. Even if I haven't met you in person or don't you, I freaking care. And all of us in vet med, like, we are amazing humans and we deserve to have this mental health support and to feel like we can be there for each other. And I want, you know, I'm creating a safe space for all of us because we deserve it. Um, but all in all, support can exist outside the hospital, and it's okay if that's how you have to find it. So, this is why I created the Reclaim program. It's about reclaiming your life, your self-worth, your confidence, and just reigniting that passion. It's the path I took to get where I am today. And I will never forget the first time I truly felt like myself again. The scenario I explained to you guys. And I realized that I was worthy of a life I actually enjoyed. Every single one of you deserves that life. And I want to remind you that you're not broken, that you've just been carrying too much. Burnout, I believe, is information. It's not a weakness. It's okay to ask for help. And I hope today ignited hope within you that you can live a fulfilling life while staying in this field. It won't be easy. There will be hard days. Like I said, there will be days that are going to challenge you because it's comfortable to stay in this negative place of, well, this is how it is. It's comfortable. It's what we're used to. And it's hard to get hope because then that means there's something that can be taken away from us. And so whenever that fear and the fears of being rejected, the fears of, just things going wrong, and you don't want to feel that pain, it's your body's survival mechanism that it's going to try and keep you from hurting. And unfortunately, the only way to getting to where you want to be is to be uncomfortable. It's to put yourself in those risky situations that might hurt you. Um, so it won't be easy. But from my experience and what I shared with you earlier, every single hard day that I've endured, 100% worth it. Not only just for me, but for my son as well, because now I am showing him what it's like to put myself first and to actually demand that for me and demand respect for myself. Because at the end of the day, like I mentioned, like these hospitals, they make money, they win from us not sticking up for ourselves. And if you think about it from a business aspect, if we're not demanding more, then of course they're going to take from us because yeah, they can say what they care about us, like the leadership or the people we learn to come to know. Yes, they could care about us on a personal level, but it comes to the day at the end of the day of business, they're gonna take advantage of you if you don't demand higher pay, if you don't demand better scheduling, whatever it looks like leaving early, they're going to take advantage. And so at the end of the day, like, who's the one that's truly going to show up for you and stick up for yourself? And it's you. And it was hard to admit that. I feel like because I knew it was going to be difficult. And so it was hard for me to admit that. But I got to a point where I didn't care anymore. I would do whatever it takes. So you're not broken, like I said. You guys will receive the email with today's recording. I will be sending a burnout audit. So that is something I created that kind of goes through, what you're experiencing, how to become clear on, what your next steps are, what you feel like you want for you. And I will also in this email add a link to where if you want a one-on-one call with me, you can schedule a session, no charge. We can just talk what you're experiencing, and what the Reclaim program could do for you. Um, and there's no obligation with that. So I will include that as well. But let's change vet med by demanding more of ourselves. And like I said, it starts with you. So I thank you guys so much. I'm gonna